Hi guys, welcome to this video on Act 5, Scene 1 from Macbeth. And in this scene, we're going to see the ultimate fate of Lady Macbeth. She's now consumed with guilt at the murder of Duncan and is constantly hallucinating that there is blood on her hands and she cannot wash them off. All of this is observed by a nurse and a doctor who are trying to come to some sort of conclusion as to why Lady Macbeth is sleepwalking and saying these really fantastical things, including a confession around what her and Macbeth did to Duncan. Now all of this leads the doctor and the nurse to the conclusion that she is mentally disturbed by the violence that her and her husband have perpetrated on Duncan. And now we don't see Lady Macbeth after this scene. She just wanders off into the darkness of the castle and isn't heard of again until she screams as she commits suicide later on in the act. So this is a scene that deals with the consequences of betrayal, the consequences of treason, with the ultimate punishment of God on Macbeth and Lady Macbeth for breaking the great chain of being. But at the same time, it explores ideas around mental health and how we all process trauma, and in particular, how Lady Macbeth is struggling to deal with guilt. Okay, so before we look at the annotation, let's listen to the scene.
When was it she last walked?
Since His Majesty went into the field. I have seen her rise from her bed, throw her nightgown upon her, unlock her closet, take forth paper, fold it, write upon it, read it, afterwards seal it, and again return to bed. Yet all this while in a most fast sleep.
A great perturbation in nature to receive at once the benefit of sleep and do the effects of watching. What, besides her walking and her other actual performances, have you at any time heard her say?
That's which I will not report after her.
You may to me.
Neither to you nor anyone, having no witness to confirm my speech. Lo you, here she comes. This is her very guise, and upon my life, fast asleep.
You see, her eyes are open.
Aye, but their scents are shut.
What is it she does now? Look how she rubs her hands.
It is an accustomed action with her to seem thus, washing her hands. I have known her continue in this a quarter of an hour. Yet, here's a spot.
She speaks.
Out. Damned spot out, I say. 1, 2. Why then, 'tis time to do it. Hell is murky. By my Lord Fye, a soldier and a feared. What need we fear? Who knows it? When none can call our power to account. Yet who would have thought the old man to have had so much blood in him?
Do you mark that?
The Thane of Fife had a wife. Where is she now? What? Will these hands ne'er be clean? No more of that, my lord, no more of that. You mar all with this starting.
Go to. Go to. You have known what you should not.
She has spoke what she should not, I'm sure of that. Heaven knows what she has known.
hears the smell of the blood. Still! All the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little hand.
The heart is sorely charged.
I would not have such a heart in my bosom for the dignity of the whole body.
Well, this disease is beyond my practice. Yet I have known those which have walked in their sleep who have died holily in their beds.
Wash your hands. Put on your nightgown. Look not so pale. I tell you yet again, Banquo's buried. He cannot come out on's grave.
Even so!
To bed. To bed. There's knocking at the gate. Come, 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 come. What's done cannot be undone. To bed. To bed. To bed. To bed.
Will she go now to bed?
Directly.
To bed. To bed. To bed.
Unnatural deeds do breed unnatural troubles. More needs she the divine than the physician. God forgive us all. Look after her. Remove from her the means of all annoyance and still keep eyes upon her, so good night. My mind she has mated and amazed my sight. I think but dare not speak.
Good night, good doctor.
Okay, so let's have a look at this annotation. Before starting, as I said in the introduction, the mental health of Lady Macbeth is very much the focus of this scene, but I think it's really, really important to consider how her character has changed. As we've said before, with character, you're always looking at how the character has developed and how certain things within the character at the beginning of the play are different at the end of the play. Now in this scene, we need to consider how the confidence and ruthlessness and violence of Lady Macbeth have given way to this mental degradation and her being consumed with the guilt at murdering Duncan. But at the same time, we can also look at her attitude towards the blood of Duncan. At the beginning of the play, in Act 2, when they've murdered him, she says, "My hands are the colour of yours, but I shame to wear a heart so white." That she wants to have murdered Duncan. She says she would have killed him if he didn't look so much like her father in his sleep. She gilds the faces of Duncan's guards with the blood of Duncan and says of the blood on her hands, "A little water clears us of this deed." At the beginning of the play, she did not understand the wider implication of that murder. Now, however, she does. The guilt she feels, the hallucinating the blood, it all shows a character that is now living with the consequences of their actions, where before they didn't fully realise what those consequences were going to be. Just to note that the Doctor and the Gentlewoman both use prose. This shows that they are low characters. It's also everyday speech. It helps the lower class audience members in Shakespeare's theatre to connect better with them and see that they represent them. It also breaks some of the heightened tension from the previous scene. So we see a doctor and a gentlewoman discussing Lady Macbeth's sleepwalking. The doctor asks, when was it she last walked, to indicate that she was sleepwalking. The gentlewoman replies, since His Majesty went into the field, so since Macbeth went to the battlefield. Then we begin to see that Lady Macbeth is mirroring the actions from the beginning of the play. So she is looking at a piece of paper, writing upon it and reading it. This mirrors the actions of Act 1 Scene 5 when Lady Macbeth is reading the note from Macbeth. She then puts on a nightgown, mirroring the actions of Act 2 Scene 2. Get on your nightgown. Through the scene it becomes clear that Lady Macbeth is just reliving these traumas and reliving these experiences as a kind of punishment or as a kind of expression of her guilt. The Doctor calls it a great perturbation in nature to receive at once the benefit of sleep and do the effects of watching. This idea that having no sleep and having sleep removed is a direct punishment from God, linking very much with the consequences of their actions. Macbeth hath murdered sleep, there was a great disturbance in the peace, all of those things from the beginning of the play kind of coming together and showing themselves through Lady Macbeth's punishment. We then see some light dark imagery expressed between the Doctor and the gentlewoman. The Doctor asks, how came she by that light? Lady Macbeth here is holding a candle or a taper or just something that produces light. And think about that symbolism. Light representing good, dark representing evil. Is this Lady Macbeth kind of rejecting some of that evil, wanting a light beside her to kind of try and ward off some of the darkness? And the gentlewoman replies, she has light by her continually. This sign of goodness and potential rejection of the darkness. And again, this is ironic, because think of Lady Macbeth's language at the beginning of the play. She says, come thick night and pour thee in the dunnest smoke of hell, so that God cannot see what she is doing, so that God cannot see her and Macbeth's actions. So at the beginning of the play, she wanted to accept darkness. She wanted to bring it into her life. Now at the end of the play, she's trying to use light to protect her against the darkness that she has allowed to consume her. This, another way, you could say that Lady Macbeth's character changes. We then see Lady Macbeth begin to wash her hands and see blood on her hands. But before we look at that, let's just take a moment to consider, why does Lady Macbeth repeat these motions from the time around the murder? Could this be a reliving because of her guilt? Could it be a consequence of her poor mental health? Or could it be a punishment from God? That God has said that she needs to relive these actions and be tormented. This is very much her own personal hell. Also, this is used by Shakespeare as a plot device to show her revealing the crime to the Doctor and the gentlewoman. This is the first time we see either Macbeth or Lady Macbeth directly reveal what they did in public. And very much the Doctor's and the gentlewoman's reaction to this mirrors the reaction of the audience to the actual murder of Duncan. Again, solidifying that bond between the lower characters of Shakespeare's play and the more working class audience members within his theatre. Just to note, Lady Macbeth uses broken, disjointed sentences within the speech, showing that her mind is degraded. She also uses prose, further showing the degeneration of her character. Before, she used iambic pentameter, she used high speech. Now, she's kind of broken, and she's just calm. So she says, yet here's a spot, showing that she's seeing blood. And blood as a motif here representing guilt. We talked about how the motif of blood changes meaning across the play. Like I say, here, guilt, punishment, all of those kind of things. Out damned spot, she says. That's a key quotation for Lady Macbeth. It's a really easy one to remember. She says hell is murky, showing that she believes or she feels like she's in hell at this time. She then relays an idea that links with unchecked ambition. She says, what need we fear who knows it, when none can call our power to account? Think about that. She is openly saying that no one can check them or no one can challenge them. But then look at the cost of that unchecked ambition. She is destroyed, Macbeth is destroying the country and will soon be murdered in a war. It's all over for them. And I think that there's irony within that statement. She says, what need we fear who knows it, when none can call our power to account? Well, there is one person or being that can call their power to account, and that is God. And that is the very person that knows exactly what they did. And that, according to, to the religious interpretation of this play, is the person that is punishing her by making her sleepwalk in this way. She then shows some pity towards Duncan. She says, yet who would have thought the old man to have had so much blood in him? At this point, she is sympathising with Duncan. She's pitying Duncan. Again, very much the opposite of how she felt towards Duncan at the beginning of the play. You remember that quotation, "The raven is hoarse that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan under my battlements." She very much wanted to murder him, and I think now she very much regrets having murdered him. And we see that regret around murder with the other characters that have been murdered. As she says, the Thane of Fife had a wife. Where is she now? Lamenting the death of Lady Macbeth, who was the wife of the Thane of Fife, Macbeth. Note as well that she's using kind of rhyme scheme and rhythm of nursery rhymes, showing further degeneration. She says, what, will these hands ne'er be clean? This idea, will she ever be free from guilt? Will she ever have washed the blood off her hands? You think back to those idioms that we looked at when they were looking at the blood on their hands in Act 2. To have blood on your hands very much means to be guilty of something. So the blood on her hands very much symbolising her guilt. Lady Macbeth then developing this idea that she cannot get the blood off her hands by saying, all the perfumes of Arabia will not sweeten this little hand. This idea that nothing in the world will rid her of her guilt. And again, think about how that represents a change. At the beginning of the play, she says a little water clears us of this deed. The idea that a little bit of water washes the blood off their hands there and then, and they are done. Obviously that's not the case. She's still racked by that guilt. And I think that talks about how Lady Macbeth at the beginning of the play didn't understand what it meant to kill someone. If you remember, Macbeth says in Act 2, Scene 2, after the murder of Duncan, will all great Neptune's ocean wash this blood clean from my hand? He is saying that all the water in the world won't be able to wash the blood of Duncan from his hands. At the beginning, after the murder of Duncan, Macbeth understands what he has done. He recognises that he's going to feel guilty about this for a long, long time. Lady Macbeth, because she isn't a soldier, does not understand that. And she thinks that it's just dead simple. You just murder him, wash the blood off your hands, and we're done. Now, right now, in the play, Act 5, Scene 1, she understands where Macbeth is coming from. She understands that nothing will be able to rid her of this guilt. We then see the gentlewoman reflect the opinions of kind of the everyday man. The doctor says, oh, how sorely charged her heart is. And the gentlewoman replies, I would not have such a heart in my bosom for the dignity of the whole body. This idea that if she were Lady Macbeth, she wouldn't choose to remain alive. The doctor then comments, this disease is beyond my practice, yet I have known those which have walked in their sleep who have died holily in their beds. He's saying, that sleepwalking is not necessarily a sign of guilt. Lady Macbeth then further reliving the events of Act 2 says, wash your hands, put on your nightgown, look not so pale. This is her instructing Macbeth just after the murder of Duncan. And she tells him to put on his nightgown so that they can appear to have been asleep. Note though, she's using imperatives here. The wash, put, look. This links back to her controlling nature within Act 2. However, it's ironic because right now she has no control over anyone or anything. So again, a further way that Lady Macbeth has changed within this play. There is then further repetition from that scene. To bed, there's knocking at the gate. Come, 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 give me your hand. What's done cannot be undone. To bed, to bed, to bed. This is just her reliving that scene, reliving this past trauma. We then have a final speech from the doctor. And note, the doctor switches to using iambic pentameter. He goes from using prose to iambic pentameter. And I think this talks about the dramatic consequences of what he has seen. Iambic pentameter is higher speech that is used to show drama, excitement and emotion. He now knows that Lady Macbeth and Macbeth murdered Duncan. And, that's going to shock him to the core. He says, unnatural deeds do breed unnatural troubles. And I think this is a really important quotation. If the idea of sleep comes up within a question, then this is a good quotation to support that. Because unnatural deeds, the murdering of Duncan, do breed unnatural troubles, the unnaturalness of not being able to sleep, or the unnaturalness of walking during your sleep. He says, infected minds to their deaf pillows will discharge their secrets. Infected minds talking about mental health, but at the same time, an infected mind will reveal secrets and betrayals and all of that kind of stuff, just as Lady Macbeth has done in this scene. He says, more needs she the divine than the physician. This is the idea that she needs to confess her sins. She needs to talk to a priest and confess to God what she and Macbeth had done. He says, look after her, remove from her the means of self-annoyance. This shows the doctor is worried about self-harm. He's worried that she might try and kill herself. And then finally he says, good night, my mind she has mated and amazed my sight. This heroic couplet showing very much that the action around Lady Macbeth has come to an end. And certainly we won't see her again in this play. Okay, so that was Act 5, Scene 1. I hope you found that useful, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye bye.